Good evening from Yami Bay TV. Wishing you all well today, sending loads of love as usual. Before I start this next video, because many requests for this one over a long period of time, I'm going to do a part one by bigging up my little nephew and that, Matty Wake, and his lovely son Louis, who was 8 today, who's hurt his wrist and just come back from hospital on his bike apparently. But I hope you're well down there, Louis, and bigging up the whole family, Matty, as well. Bigging up my boy down in Nottingham, Lee Faulkner, always my boy, I got you. Fran Charles and my sister Shell and the great Roman, of course, down here in Manchester. I love you both dearly. Tony and Lisa, JG, Elle, everybody. But let me get into it now. You've been asking me for a long time. When have you come up? Come on, Yami, give us some travellers. All right, I'll give you some. I'm going to save the Irish travellers for a part 2, all right, when I build up that little collection there, because the memory, every time someone just says something, I say, oh yeah, I was with him here, I was with him there. So what I mean, so we got to do the groundwork when we put all the names in, because I forgot about the Northeast the other day. There was another 2 that you lot reminded me, and I thought, wow, yeah, I mean, how could you have forgotten them? Rightly so as well. So we'll go into the travellers that I met from ancient history up to the present time, probably around London, England, that kind of area, and right up to this present time, their names are still being called as legendary travellers. So we go back in ancient history. We go to Aylesbury. We go to Bill Smith when he first come. He looks older than his 20 years as a YP. I always questioned his age because he had grey hair already, but he's a right proper face geezer. But he had a hard face, right? I see him knock out a couple of geezers with one punch. We got to adult prison right later on, and he was still the same, but kept to himself, very quiet. Wasn't a lot of travellers around about that time, but he had a massive name, that Bill Smith. I don't think he's family to the rest of the Smiths over that area there. I think Bill Smith was more Kent and that kind of area, if I'm not mistaken. But there was a Frank Smith, who was brother to John Smith. I don't know what, there's some mix up. I think one of them got nicked for something naughty. I don't know how true that is, but I know Frank, one of them could have a right rouse and high down with him. But getting back to the nitty gritty, you can't mention the travellers without mentioning Dave Thurston. Right, the great Dave Thurston, charismatic figure, the gift of the gab, full of laughter, and a fit geezer. Right, he used to come back in from street to jail and start doing his circuits and get fit into Mead. No mug with his hands as well. Doesn't like to use violence in that way, if you get what I mean. But Uncle Yami believes that he could still have it if he really has to. But a funny geezer, Divvy Dave, when they all got nicks. I think they had another Cody, I can't remember his name, but that was way back in the day. I saw him outside a couple of times, looking the part as well, like he always does. Respect for Dave forever. Had his ups and downs through things, Dave, but a tough man as far as Uncle Yami's concerned, and had the full array of skills, which is not always the case with a lot of people, if you get what I mean. But then we break it down. All right. So those ones from 80s, 90s, all the way through the millennium. All right. So we get down to Tyron Hardy, right, from South London. One of the most feared men and respected by everyone, right, and could have a right row. I was in approved school, no, I missed him, sorry, in approved school in St. Thomas More. He was there before me. But when I got to St. Thomas More, right, there was a gym down in Sturroton, Brighton, where we used to go on box. Remember, I was too small, but I still used to go. But they always used to talk about him with his quick hands and that. And he had a couple of bouts as well. And they used to always tell me, yeah, Tyron Hardy, right? Proper fighter, right? And then I met him years later, of course. Full-time trainer, physical, very athletic, but doesn't take no shit off no one. On the road as well, apparently very serious. I met him a couple of times out here briefly as well, done a lot of time, but I would probably put him up against anyone, if you get what I mean. And those that know Tyron will probably agree with me too. Not one of those that you could take too lightly, if you get what I mean. So then we get round to Johnny James in the Cat A's. Johnny James, right, traveller, but done a life sentence, but by all intents and purposes had many fights in the Cat A's and won the majority of them. I seen John, right, fight big lumps and like when he'd put him down and then get him in a headlock, and then he didn't want to fight. I said, oh, he said, listen, I'm going to let you back up in a minute. He could have it, and he was physically strong as well with his circuits and weights, Johnny James. He was a handful, John. I'm telling you, he's to get up to his things like everybody else did at that time when we was all running around like nutters. But the Johnny James that I know backed it no matter what. And he was definitely skilled like this as well. So Peter Fury has to get a mention in those my early travellers that I'm going to go over a period of time. Peter Fury, hearing stories from jail, never met him, but obviously Uncle Yami heard things along the way from those northern jails. I think he was in a private jail once. I'm not sure if it was Dovegate or Royal Course or one of those jails, but I know I heard two things about the visits, and I heard something about in a cell where he put 3 men away when they were bullying the geezer. I don't know how true that is. I can't clarify that. But these are the things I've been hearing. When you're asking me if I heard about Peter Fury, Uncle Yami remembers categorically listening to conversations from those from that neck of the woods. So Peter Fury has to be right up there because he's a fighting man, and I ain't heard nothing about a loss yet. So he's got to be up there as well. But the ones I saw then, so we get back to Bruce Knowles is co-defendant Peter Oakley, right? Bruce Knowles could have it as well, we know, but Peter Oakley, wow, a traveller. I think he was about 5'6", built like a tank. He said spend 1 hour on each calf and then an hour on each thigh and then go back to the gym later on. They were absolutely terrified of him. I'm talking about this man would put men away with a jab. He was so built. You just wondered where all the energy came from. And this was during that time on the island, only sort of couple of periods, small periods. But by all intents and purposes, when you ask the older lot about Bruce Knowles, is Cody, Peter Oakley was one of those dynamic figures. There was a little traveller from Newcastle, I think his name was Stedman. He had a funny eye, right? I forgot to tell you lot, and I forgot to mention him like Keith Pringle in my video the other day of the hardest in Newcastle. I respected him as well, and he's well respected, Keith Pringle. But Stedman as well was only about 9-10 stone. A lot of these travellers as well, the travelling men, sorry, they come with their 9-10 stones and they're putting big men away from the crack of dawn creation. You had warnings about travellers because, you know, they're brought up to fight with their hands. They might not have big muscles and all that, but they know how to swing a few and put you away pretty early. I seen someone come unstuck though when they don't put them away, and then they got to, you know, because you know how the travelling community is. But the one thing that's definite, Uncle Yami could vouch for that, the Cerberlegs and all that. I think Dave Hutchinson wasn't such a fighter, but he was a weapon man as well. But the other two, who was the other three that I had? I had 3 more. Bloody hell, Yami, what's up with you, boy? Tyron Hardy, oh no, Peter Oakley. There was another big name that is well known in the system as well. Oh, bloody hell, Yami. We'll leave that one today, but there's a little warm up for you, right? Uncle Yami's met loads, but the Irish travellers as well. They were a different kettle of fish, very light, very slim. I met a couple of big ones as well, but Uncle Yami's going to put up a collection for you as well, right? So you let me know. I thought I had 2 more. Imagine that, man. I'm going to come back. Don't worry. Send you loads of love.